Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold, bringing world-class rugby to the Crescent City. The game is fast, the hits are hard, the fan experience is for real. Season tickets, lifetime tickets, and game day passes are all available at nolagoldrugby.com. I'm John Goodman, and I'll see you in the scrum.
So here's the bottom line. It's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host Scott Alexander, and for the third time in Saints franchise history, well, they're going to the NFC Championship game. What a great weekend for the New Orleans Saints. Hey, they outlasted the Philadelphia Eagles, as you know. They got down 14-0 in the game. They were getting demolished in the first quarter. They out-yarded 153-21. And then from that moment on, it was all Saints. This game should have been even a bigger score. They missed a field goal. They had to rely on field goals a couple other times. But they scored 20 unanswered points. They ended up getting 400-plus yards in the next three quarters, holding the Eagles to around 100, and before that last drive, that last gasp effort for the Eagles, it was only like 60. So it was domination. They need to continue that this weekend because the Rams, they beat the Cowboys over in LA with Gurley and Anderson, both going over 100 yards rushing. Both teams have started to change their high-flying ways and going into a more ground and pound. We shall see in the Dome. The Saints took care of them back on November 4th. Can they do it again? The Patriots, well, it was a complete rout. Tom Brady and Foxborough and the Patriots, that is as sure as you can get. And let's put to rest Phillip Rivers. I love Phillip Rivers as a player, but quit putting him in the category of Breeze and Brady and Rodgers and Manning. He's not that guy, but he's still a great football player. See you next year, Phillip. Hey, the Chiefs, well, they put an absolute beatdown on Andrew Luck and the Colts. So it's the four best teams. It's Rams and Saints, Pats and Chiefs. You got the four best teams. And what I'm doing this week, like I did last week, we're doing all Saints. We're going to do one TV Saints guy. We're going to do one radio Saints guy and one print guy. That's coming up next. But don't forget Devin White. He's going pro. He's, to me, one of the great linebackers in LSU history. And don't forget the Pelicans. They are coming back again. They've won 4 out of 5. Huge road win last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. They've got Golden State tomorrow. All this coming up on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, like I said in the open, last week was so much fun. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to cover the Saints completely, maybe touch on the Pelicans a little bit, but we're going to have one media from television, one from radio, and another from the print guys, writing. So first off, it's going to be Fletcher Mackel. Hey, he's a frequent guest on this show. Love to talk to him about all topics, anything that has to do with New Orleans and South Louisiana. But today it's going to be Saints. He's from WDSU. Obviously, he and Sharif are all primed up for the NFC Championship. And cross your fingers, hopefully to go to Atlanta for the Super Bowl. But here he is again. What's up, my friend?
Thanks for having me.
I remember I had you beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah,
but
right at the beginning.
But the previous time was about this time last year. They did not make it to the NFC Championship game. I think it might have been right before the Minnesota game, but a little better going forward this year?
Yeah, obviously beating the Eagles. I thought it was going to happen. It was a little bit of a scare, especially when the Philly got out to a 14-0 lead. I just thought, is this whole Nick Foles, Saint Nick magic a real thing? But that was their best punch, and I just think that the Saints were a better team top to bottom, and we saw that. The Rams concern me a little bit, obviously, more than the Eagles do.
Sure.
But I still think the Saints at home, it's a hard place to win when they're playing as well as they are.
I know you look at stats a lot. Not every media guy does completely, but I'm up in the booth with those guys, and I'm watching the first quarter. It was like 150-plus yards for the Eagles, 20-1 about for the Saints. But from that moment on, it was just quite the opposite. 400 yards for the Saints and only 100 or less for the Eagles.
That's been one of the things, especially about the defense. You know, if you look at the Saints this season, teams have gotten off to good starts on their first drive or good starts in the first quarter. And that's one of the things I think shows to me that Dennis Allen is a really good coach, because he adjusts to what other offenses are doing and he finds a way to shut it down. How many times this season in the second half of games have we said Saints pitched a shutout in the second half, Saints really cut them off after the first quarter? And that's the sign to me of a good defensive coordinator with good defensive coaches and players who understand what they're trying to do. They see what the offense is doing or where they've attacked them, and they have made the adjustments and they have stopped it. And that has been a constant theme this year. The offense, I feel like, doesn't really hit those lulls, so to say. That, yeah, Breeze threw the interception, but they were taking a shot. If he gets a little more on that throw, that's a huge play to gain. But I think the defense is where you see maybe they take a punch or two, but then they kind of figure out where their best area of defense is and where they can sneak some shots in as well.
I'm going to follow you up with another stat, because the only quarter the Saints get outscored in is the first. It's not much. It's 6-5, but the fourth quarter, speaking of adjustments, is where they blow everybody else away. They're over 10 points a game in the fourth. They're around 5. That's a 5-point differential for the fourth. The next best team is like 2.3, and that's like the Houston Texans and New England's right there too. So they are making the adjustment when it matters. And Dennis Allen, exactly. I mean, he's one of the guys that I think has had he's going up for that next job.
Yeah, look, I'm surprised, and I understand. I know what happened in Oakland. It was a bad situation.
Sure.
But I still think teams are missing on a really good head coach.
And still young.
Yeah, still young.
I mean,
and I think he's going to get a chance. But when you look, he has talent, but he's made the most of that talent last year and this year. And I think he is everything about him as head coach. I understand why Denver wanted him as defensive coordinator, why Oakland wanted him as a head coach, and why Sean Payton wanted him back after what happened in Oakland. But look, I mean, he had Terrell Pryor playing quarterback in Oakland. Do we really hold that against him? He had Derek Carr and Khalil Mack for 4 games or whatever it was before he got fired when they were rookies. So to me, I think once he gets an opportunity, people are going to be talking about why didn't this guy get that second chance?
That's a good point. He had a wide receiver basically playing quarterback for him.
Right, in Oakland.
Yeah, you're going to get judged on that. Hey, I want to bring out one player in particular that has been such dynamic for this team. He's been getting props lately, but all season long it's been other guys. But Demario Davis on the defense, what's he meant?
He's meant everything. I mean, if we look at the greatest team in Saints franchise history, which is the Super Bowl team, you had Drew Brees, who was the quarterback of the offense, and John Vilma, who was the quarterback of the defense. I don't think Demario Davis, because maybe he's not that outspoken guy, so to say. He's not really kind of that rah-rah alpha that Vilma was. I think that, but what he's done this year, I mean, this is maybe, it's going to go down when we look back on it, and you talk about amazing free agent signings. He's got to be in the top 3 to 5. I mean, Breeze is obviously number 1 by a landslide.
Like Vilma.
Yeah, Vilma came via trade, though.
Yeah,
but like a guy they targeted in free agency. But you're right, he came from the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
It was like his team was like, how good is he? What is he? Can he be an elite player? He has been elite for this defense. I mean, in pass coverage, getting after the quarterback, everything about him has just been, they've knocked it out the park. I don't think we talk enough about him, because I think he's been instrumental for Dennis Allen in this defense.
Okay, big concerns going into the next week. They play the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, obviously, when the Rams came in, they were the undefeated team, remember? And they were the team that everybody was talking about. They've been the team that I've been worried about the whole way. We figured this might happen right here. You're going to get the Rams. You were hoping it was going to be home. Now you got that home field advantage. Aaron Donald and Dominic Sue, Michael Brockers, that entire defensive line is full of beasts and high draft picks. How is this offensive line going to hang up with them, especially with the injuries to Pete that he can't hold on? Teron Armstead's not full strength. How do you think they're going to do?
It's certainly a concern. I mean, obviously, look, Mark Ingram told us on Monday in the locker room that we saw what they were doing on the defensive side of the ball. Mark Ingram said this. They were assembling a defensive dream team with Sue and Peters and Talib to go with the guys with Brockers and everything that they have. Of course, Donald, who I think is
they picked
defensive
up
player
Beasley
of the year.
midseason, who was a top 10 pick.
Right, and so you look at that, and yes, Teron Armstead's not 100%, although he said it's a good pain now. He told us on Monday that he's hurt, but it's not a bad pain. It's an okay pain that he can. Good. And then obviously Pete with the injury and all the penalties that he sustained. It's going to be one in the trenches. I know that Breeze and Goff, a lot of sizzle. Gurley, Kamara, Ingram, tons of sizzle at the running back position. Michael Thomas and Brandon Cooks, tons of sizzle at the wide receiver position. But I think we need to talk more about the steak, so to say, like the beef up front, because I think that on the Saints did a really nice job against the run all season. They did a good job against the run the last time they played the LA Rams, but the Rams are coming off 250 yards or 270 yards rushing against Dallas, and that's a good defense where, both of their running backs had 100 yards rushing. So I think the Saints will be tested like they haven't been in any way this season on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive line will be tested like they haven't in any way this season. But look, the Rams, I think, are also going to be tested. This is just a great matchup. This is what we thought was going to happen. We looked at this matchup in November and said this is an NFC Championship game preview. I think this is what we hoped, and this is what it should be. This is the two best teams in the NFC meeting for a berth in the Super Bowl. And I think the Saints are the favorite because they're at home, but I could see this game going anyway.
Now, this was the matchup from back in November. This was the build-up. I remember, the TV people were like, let's get this on, and it was everything. Saints got that huge lead, and all of a sudden the Rams made it interesting, made it a bit scary towards the end, and the Saints pulled it out. Do you think it's going to be that kind of high-scoring affair, or do you think it's going to be like the trend right now during the playoffs with a lot of the teams, defense is taking over?
I don't think it's going to be 45-35 like it was last time, but I don't think it's going to be 10-7, so to say. I could see the game landing somewhere like at 24-21, 27-24, in a field goal deciding things. The one thing that I wonder, and this is what I hope, is Jared Goff good enough to come in here in the biggest game of his life on the road and win this game for the Rams? I don't think he was good enough to do it the last time they played here. He threw that crucial interception, and Alex Anzalone made a really great play. That's what I think this game is going to come down to. I think that Dennis Allen and Sean Payton are going to say, Gurley in that ground game is not going to beat us. If we lose this game, this guy, this young quarterback who didn't have great success in college, Cal didn't have this tremendous success. He wasn't playing in the playoffs in his first couple of years. His first year was really rough. Last year was certainly a tremendous year for him. But I think they're going to make him beat them at home. That's just, and I don't know if he can do it. I would take Drew Brees every day of the week against Jared Goff.
It's human nature sometimes to, the casual fan to judge people by Pro Bowls and how many you make. Well, one guy that hasn't made a Pro Bowl yet, I think should have, and is going to be a big impact loss, is Sheldon Rankins. This guy has been a dominant player all season long. He's really coming to his own. How big is this going to be for the Saints not getting that kind of push from the inside from a guy like him? Yeah,
they do have depth. David Onyemata is obviously going to play more snaps there, and he's had a solid season as well. But Rankins had a breakout season. I mean, look, Sheldon Rankins, I think, was a complete Pro Bowl snub with the 8 sacks he had, with what he meant.
Interior line sacks are rare.
Right.
I mean, Aaron Donald gets them, but when you get 8 from a guy like Rankins.
And that's the thing about him, is that he's really good in the ground game at the point of attack, and that's been one of the keys for the Saints this year. They were one of the top teams against the run, but he also gets after the quarterback and affects the passer with that inside pressure. I think it's a huge loss at the worst possible time because of the team that you're playing. But I do think David Onyemata is a solid player and will certainly get more reps in this game. And there have been moments where we've seen him. I mean, he had 2 sacks in one game, and we were like, whoa, David Onyemata.
I love Onyemata.
Right. And so I do think they're not so thin behind Rankins that you go, what do they do? But it's a significant loss.
It's a different kind of player, though. He's more of a bull rush guy, and Rankins is that explosion guy. Mm-hmm. Rankins doesn't have the size, Yeah. I mean, for a guy where he's playing, so that's going to be different. Hey, this sets up the NFL perfectly, doesn't it? I mean, you have the 4 best teams. Literally, there's nobody sneaking in, no Cinderella. The 4 top offenses. You've got superstar power. Listen, you got the probable MVP in Mahomes. Mm-hmm. You've got the the greatest player of all time, last year's MVP. Some say Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Obviously, over there you got Todd Gurley, most electric player, along with Alvin Kamara in the league, and us New Orleans, we all think Drew Brees is the greatest player they played. So each team's got their superstars. The NFL can't go wrong.
Without question. And look, you have coaches. I know that Belichick isn't exactly a media sensation, but you have him. You have Andy Reid, who's been there, done that, and is this renowned offensive mind. You have McVay and Peyton, that the young.
What a matchup that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are so similar. These offensive kind of innovators, if you will. Sean McVay is kind of a mini-me to Sean Payton, and I don't want to use that term because I don't want to slight his stature or being like the mini-me person, but I just look at the parallels and I see these super intense, focused kind of alpha males and these offensive innovators, and I feel like there are a lot of parallels between Sean Payton and Sean McVay. You're right. The only thing I think the NFL probably wishes is that Dallas are still alive, because Dallas has such this national following. Love them or hate them, Dallas is big for TV. But yeah, this is the best teams. Kansas City and New England have been the best teams. New Orleans and LA have been the best teams. So they've got the best teams in their championship, and they will have a tremendous Super Bowl, be it New England versus New Orleans or LA, New Orleans versus Kansas City. Whatever you get, you're going to get a very formidable Super Bowl matchup.
You know who also wishes that the Dallas Cowboys were still alive, besides Jerry Jones?
Who's that?
My producer, Will Hill. I'm sorry, Will. There you go. Hey, he's a big Cowboy fan.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, I just thought about this. I haven't dug into that AFC Championship a ton yet, but it's a rematch from a Super Bowl way back earlier in their coaching careers, their head coaching careers, with Belichick and Reid, back when Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb were playing for the Eagles, obviously. Those two played in the Super Bowl, and it was a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, and look, Andy Reid was a great coach. I mean, Andy Reid, I want to say 5 NFC Championship games. I forgot, was it 2 Super Bowls with the Eagles that he took them to? But he had some tremendous success in Philadelphia. And look, Andy Reid, we talk about like Demario Davis being an underrated player. People don't talk about Andy Reid enough. What he did in Philadelphia, he goes to Kansas City. I mean, the guy's just in the playoffs every single year. And then this was the year. That's one of the reasons why they moved past Alex Smith. Not because he couldn't get him to the playoffs, but because they couldn't win a game in the playoffs. They couldn't get deep into the playoffs. But with a guy like this in Mahomes, I mean, he's a pretty special player, and they're pretty electric.
When Kareem Hunt went down with the domestic violence charge, I was skeptical. I was. Because, Spencer Ware was supposed to be the guy to step in. A nice back, big, strong back. But Kareem Hunt's a pinball machine out of the backfield. I mean, he's a Kamara type. I mean, they both were co-rookie of the years, weren't they? Something like that. But point being is this kid, Damian Williams, has stepped up. But the one thing, real quick, I know that you're right on the NFC Championship games. I'm having a brain fart. What was the other Super Bowl the Eagles were in? I'm sure they were. I just can't remember it.
I know. I can't remember it either. I know they played New England. I don't think they went to just one, right? I know they were. I remember doing the research.
I can't remember the second one.
I think it was 5 NFC Championship game appearances.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Maybe it was under Andy Reid. Under Andy Reid, 5 NFC Championship game appearances. Maybe it was just the one Super Bowl.
Somebody will correct us. I know.
Yeah, I can't remember the other one except for New England, and maybe it's just because my memory's not that great either.
Well, I can't let you leave without saying something about the Pelicans right now. I've been on the bandwagon of now they're healthy, and they're going to have to stay healthy. Let's be honest.
Sure.
This is a team that can't take a loss or two and continue to think they're going to go on this 10-game win streak. I'm not saying they're going to go on any 10-game win streak, but they're right now. They're in the hunt. I mean, I wouldn't have said that before, even though the games might have been kind of the same away from the playoffs. But now, Nico Mirotic still hasn't gotten there yet. But you can see with guys and rotations that they have a much better shot. They've now won 4 out of 5. Huge win last night on the road against the Clippers. I can't stress how big that would have been to lose that and then have to play Golden State tomorrow night. What is your thought process going forward? Because I know sometimes you can be down on the Pels, you can be hard on them, but when they're doing well, you acknowledge it as well.
Look, I was in Houston for the first game. I saw this team at full strength. I saw what they were capable of. Until they do it, though, they are full strength right now. I don't want any more excuses about Mirotic is out, about Alfred Payton's out. They're full strength right now, and they've got to go on a run. Last year, the Utah Jazz closed the season on a final 35 games, 29-6.
Yeah.
They went from 12th to 4th.
Right.
New Orleans has got to go on that kind of run.
It's not happening.
Then here's the thing.
They went 32-14 though last year.
Here's the thing, though.
32-14.
I tell everybody, when people say it's not happening, then here's the thing. Then go watch the final 2 months of Anthony Davis. No, I'm serious. If they don't go on a run like that, and if they don't get to 4 or 5, getting in at 8 and getting blown out in the first round by Golden State again, not good enough.
Well, 6 is as good as 4 right now.
Right, and let me say this. If they got to 6 and did what they did last year, they don't have to get to 4, but they have to get to a position where they can win a round in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if just sneaking in
but
at
you know
8,
they don't have to go 29-6 to get there.
I understand that,
All
but
right,
they can't just bounce around and sneak in at 8. So they may not have to go 29-6, but they can't just kick around for the rest of the season.
27-8, though. That's what you got to go.
But my thing is this, because look, Davis wants to win. I truly believe he wants to win.
Yeah.
Sneaking in at 8 and getting blown out in the first round or missing the playoffs by a game, Anthony Davis is passing on an extension. You have got to show him that we can do what we did last year. 3, 4, 5, 6, win a game, get to the second round, maybe win a game in the second round. That, I think, will convince him there's enough here to be committed here, to see something here. If not, if they don't do something like that, they sneak in at 8 or they miss the playoffs entirely, then it's over with. Davis will be traded, Dell will be gone, Alvin will be gone, and we will be talking about who is the new leader of this team that will trade Anthony Davis and will reshape the organization for years to come.
I mean, do you still think, what if he did get to the second round? What if they even went to Game 7? Do you think that's enough?
I think that's enough.
I do. For sure. You think that's definitely enough?
I feel like anything more than last year, you can convince him on, look, the Houston Rockets were up and down this year, but they're going to be there when the playoffs start. Teams deal with injuries. These are all realistic factors that is a smart man that he is. He understands. Is there really a better opportunity getting traded? Because he's not a free agent. They could trade him anywhere, and it's not a good situation. So to me, I feel like getting where they got to last year is the absolute rock bottom of what they have to do this year. If not, Anthony Davis.
Well, you're the trade machine guy. What would you take for him?
Anthony Davis?
Yeah, what would it take? Because he still has another year contract.
Right.
Well, obviously, you want to get what you can. But what would you take Fletcher Mackel as a GM?
Okay, real quick, and I know we're wrapping up here. If Boston put Jason Tatum on the table.
Is this the sign?
Yeah. If Boston put Jason Tatum on the table, that's probably enough if he doesn't sign the extension. Jason Tatum and any filler to come with him. Or if Ben Simmons in Philadelphia was swapped for Anthony Davis with filler. And here's one. The guy in Dallas pointed this out. If Anthony Davis were offered to the Mavericks, would they put Luka Doncic and Harrison Barnes on the table? If Davis doesn't sign the extension and Dallas wants to add Davis and then try to lure a star player like Durant or Clay or Kawhi, if Davis is there, it makes it easier. You know, to me, Luka Doncic and Harrison Barnes, those are just hypotheticals this summer if he passes on the extension.
Luka Doncic himself. I mean, Harrison Barnes, I consider filler.
Yeah, but money-wise, he has to come.
We got the money.
Right.
Money's working here.
So.
Hey, we got a few things here. I'm going to start with this one, though. Okay. The NOLA Gold. I know you're all about the Saints, but I'm going to give you a schedule to put up at WDSU.
I loved it. They were great last year. It was great to cover last year.
And there you go. That is starting. Hey, the season starts on January the 26th. Can you believe that?
No.
That's right around the corner. That is like 11 days away from now. Here you go. Stepped you up right there. Yeah, this is like Christmas around here, isn't it?
It's like belated Christmas.
And I know you know about these shirts.
They're great. Task.
I mean, how comfortable do those feel?
Yeah, I wear to jog every day. The last time I was here, 6 months ago, I still wear it. So.
You still wear that same one? So we got you another?
Every day. Yeah.
Every day he wears that Task. You should too. Check it out. Task Performance. Fletcher, Mackel. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'll be seeing, I know I'll see you in the Dome this week. Hopefully I'll be seeing you in Atlanta as well.
Yep, thank you.
I'll be right after the home, it's not the home opener, but the second game is February 2nd afternoon, so I'm going to have to figure out how to get there that night. All right, we're coming back. I told you this is going to be all Saints. We took a 4-minute detour to the Pelicans just now, but we're coming up next. We're going to do the radio version of this Saints thing. We got Kristian Garic from WWL. And we also have coming up later Rod Walker, a good friend of the show. He is with The Advocate. He writes on all topics. Right now, he's knee-deep in the Saints right here on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at mid-city lanes.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style in fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with shirts, belts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of people from the Crescent City. The tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We are in our middle part of the Saints special. We got Rod Walker coming. We just had Fletcher Mackel. Now we're doing the radio version, a guy that's voice has become so familiar right here in New Orleans. He is the sports director at WWL, but he's also the co-host of one of those great talk shows, Drive Time show called Sports Talk with Bobby Hebert on WWL Radio. His name is Kristian Garic. It's Kristian with a K.
What's up, Scotty?
What is
How are
up,
you?
my friend?
Good to be on with you. Good to be on with the COO of NOLA Gold Rugby, huh? How about that?
Coup.
Yeah,
The coup.
My dad was a coup of a company one time, and that's a big honor, man.
A coup with a couple periods involved. But speaking of a coup, I have something that rhymes with coup.
All right.
It's called a cockatoo.
Oh,
and
boy.
I have a picture. Explain this picture right here.
Well,
I love it.
Okay, the bird's name is Marco.
All right.
And he's a very affectionate bird.
Yeah.
And he's on my shoulder quite a bit. He's a cockatiel, and he's very, very smart. We're working on a hoot at, but he'll whistle, he'll catcall women.
He catcalls women.
Oh yeah, and he does this thing with his head where he'll kind of get it going up and down, making some noises. But he's spoiled. I mean, he sits on my shoulder pretty much all the time. So last night I was making dinner, and he wanted a kiss, so he comes over and starts pecking at my lips a little bit. So.
He pecked on the lips. He gives you a nice kiss. I had to bring it. It wasn't like I even rated your Twitter photo album. I just saw this one on last night, and I said, I got to use that.
Oh yeah. Well,
all right.
Look, he's awesome. He's so fun.
And he's got a who-dat coming?
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it. You know, we adopted it. I just adopted this bird about a month ago, so I'm working on that.
So he already says the dog's name, Marine, right?
Marine, yeah. So we have a puppy as well, and the puppy it's a chocolate lab named Marine. So we're often, as you know, if you ever had a puppy, you're always saying no. It's common. So we're always going Marine, no, Marine, no. So he's picked that up, and he'll start saying Marine, no.
Not only have I had puppies, I've had tons of labs.
Oh yeah.
So there's nothing better in life than me than a puppy lab. Is this really like a puppy?
Oh yeah. Well, she's about 13 weeks now.
That's still puppy.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
No, they're tearing stuff up. I know that.
And I'm constantly redirecting her. I mean, I don't know how many pig ears I go through a day.
Right.
Chew toys. I've got
my
at least
goodness.
8 or 9 of them, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also can be stressful. But
Keep all leather products away,
yeah.
closed up.
Oh yeah. Well, when I'm stressed though, it's time for her to go back in the kennel and learn that hey, this is the behavior that's not desired. So you go there.
Not desired. I like it. Hey, but by the way, the lab puppies I think are the greatest.
They're the best.
All right, moving forward, the Saints.
Yeah.
You're a big part of this Saints broadcast. I mean, WWL is the flagship station. Zach Streif, obviously Deuce McAllister call the games. You guys do the post-game, pre-game, all that stuff. How's this season gone for you?
Well, it's been different for me. As you know, for the last previous 9 years, I'd been the sideline reporter. It's a new role for me this year, doing a pre and post game, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you do a show with Bobby Hebert, you can't help but walk away, laughing in the middle of the show.
He's so much fun. He really is.
He's become such a character. He doesn't just rely on his playing experience. He's a true character. Where Buddy D was a character, he's
in
gotten
that
up there.
range.
Oh, without a doubt. So it's a big pleasure of mine. That's the boyhood idol I grew up watching. That was my boyhood idol. So it's a big thrill for me to be able to do shows with him. But it helps when the Saints are rolling like they are. I mean, finishing 13-3 and have the number 1 seed in the NFC. And for a stretch there, 10 games, they were just blowing teams out, beating the brakes off of teams. And now they're in the NFC title game, and it's a familiar territory for the Who Dat Nation. It's a lot of fun. This city, this area is, as you know, at an all-time high right now.
It really is, and it's so much fun this time of year. One more thing on Bobby, and I have to laugh because you sit next to him so often. When he comes in halftime, you're usually up above us, and he sits right next to me, and he's got all these notes. And so, just so you know, Bobby is one of the most prepared dudes I've ever been around. You don't even try to read those notes, though.
No.
He's got so many different colored inks on. He's probably, I'm like, how do you read that, Bobby?
He over-prepares, where a lot of hosts might under-prepare. He will have stuff, and he'll give me during the show. If you hear me on the radio, I'll say, Bobby's giving me the finger, and that means he's giving me the index finger, hey, I got something to say, and he's reaching all the while, in a bag, trying to pull out a note. He studies his tail off, and he's got 3 different. I can't figure out the coding system. 3 different highlights that he uses. I don't know if
he doesn't know his own system.
Pink is more important, or if yellow is more important, or green or blue. It's fascinating to watch, though.
But can you read any of that stuff, though?
I can't read his handwritten stuff.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But his highlighted stuff in the paper or stuff like that, I could obviously. But his
that.
handwritten stuff, no. He still writes in. I mean, cursive. I'm sure he's signed to football. He's when he does an
What are you
autograph.
talking about? How big is that?
Yeah, right. I mean,
he's got the biggest one. Put this up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby Hebert right there.
And he takes up the whole panel.
Cajun Cannon. I said, dude, you already took off 1/4 of my ball when he opened it up.
He's a trip, though.
He's the best. In fact, he's on a couple of these. Hey, moving forward, working with Deuce and Zach.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this team, they had a lot of question marks coming in. That y'all were part of that hire, obviously, and it was controversial in some circles. I get to work with these dudes all the time, and I love them both. How's it been? How has been the reaction?
Well, I think it's been positive. I mean, first off, anybody that was going to step in and try to be Jim Henderson was going to make a great mistake. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime broadcaster.
Right.
But I think Zach has done a marvelous job, a fantastic job. I mean, going from not calling any NFL games ever to where he is now, I think he sounds fantastic. In a lot of ways, he's put his own stamp and signature on this.
No question.
And he's another just a pleasure to work with. A lot like Deuce, very humble guys. A lot like Bobby. Zach's the same way. And you look at those 3 in particular, and you say, man, they've accomplished pro sports so much in pro sports. You could understand if they were a little bit arrogant.
Right.
They are not even
not
close.
At all. You're right.
Not
They're
even
fun
close.
to be around. And by the
They're
way,
ordinary guys. They're ordinary guys. You know that.
Zach Strief did something that's never been done. I mean, it's never happened where you go straight from the field to the play-by-play position. It's one thing to do color, but play-by-play is so hard to do. And I mean, he's, the way he's come from the beginning to now is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, from year 1, watch him in year 2, just like a rookie player, right? In the NFL, we always say the biggest leap is from year 1 to year 2. I think Zach has already gotten almost that leap. He's been highly impressive. And you talk about a guy that studies, he takes it serious, a lot like he did when he was playing. He's a pro. He's going to prepare. He is obsessed with preparation and scared to death of failure, which drives people.
Right, no doubt. Hey, moving forward with the Saints, this is the matchup that everyone was hoping for, everyone expected. Now we're here. What are your concerns? What are your reservations? And how do you think this will go this week?
The concern is that all of a sudden the Rams have found a running game.
Yes, they have.
C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley. And those two big rascals are a real challenge to bring down. Now, what I like is obviously the crowd impact. We saw it against the Eagles. They were accountable, I think, for 2 timeouts, wasted timeouts, and 2 false start penalties. That's 4 plays. 4.
Huge.
That's
huge.
It doesn't sound like a lot because you can count them on one hand, but it is in a divisional round playoff game. I like the atmosphere in that Superdome. And the Rams do so much at the line of scrimmage, right? They call a lot of audibles. They make a lot of calls at the line of scrimmage. That'll be difficult, much more difficult in the Superdome on Sunday. But I like the Saints have been able to stop the run. I'm a little nervous about the loss of Sheldon Rankins. Man, that's a guy that had just come on this year. And he got the good guy award in the locker room. Superhuman being, great football player. And he'll be missed, but I want to see how they fill that gap a little bit. But you're at home. You're in the Who Dat Nation, and they'll make things difficult for that Rams team.
I'm gonna say this, man. That injury we also would have with Boogie Cousins. He's out next year too, and that breaks my heart because he was a guy seriously coming into his own. Seriously, I thought he should have been a Pro Bowler. He was one of the snubs. In fact, I think he was the guy that I thought, along with Kamara, the most snubbed by the Saints. So that's going to be missed. Are you concerned about the offensive line right now? Because this, to me, when healthy, is the strongest unit in the league. But they're not completely healthy right now.
No, I mean, the biggest one is Andrews Pete, playing with a broken hand. Let's point that out. He's playing with a cast on, had surgery during the bye week. He's not completely healed, and he's still trying to figure out how to play offensive line with a broken hand and a cast.
You hold.
Yeah, and every NFL
you hold.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care what.
And you can't hold with a broken hand.
They'll deny, the offensive lineman will deny that, but every defensive player will tell you they all hold. And you can't hold. You're right, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. I think Andrews Pete is still your better option, though. A one-handed Andrews Pete is probably your better option. But they are the best offensive line in football when they are healthy. They'll have to work through it. But I think that they're going to do some things schematically to help Andrews Pete at times. And he was playing through significant pain in that ball game, and that'll get better too. More treatment, a week removed from the surgery, that'll help him a little bit deal with that pain. And they can always shoot him up.
We all here in New Orleans know about the Saints' comeback ability. We know their strike ability. What point of this game was there concern in Kristian Garic's head?
if I'm being honest,
Being completely honest,
I wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
I just wasn't.
I did the same thing. But I thought it might get you. There was a little concern. There was zero panic, but at one point there was a tiny bit of concern in my head.
I saw some fans melting down in my mentions on
Right.
Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
just saying this game's over. This team has no heart.
No, that's
and I was
ridiculous.
like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Have you not watched this team all year long?
I hope they're blocked.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, this team is more resilient than I think of the 2009 Super Bowl champion team. I mean, look at the adversity that they've battled this year. Comeback
Mark Ingram,
victories.
not even.
Yeah, I mean, comeback victories this year, and I never once doubted it. I said going into the week, Scott, that the Eagles would come in with this high energy. They would be executing well, and they would play on this high for about a quarter, right? But they had played 5 out of the last 6 weeks on the road and 4 straight. I just thought they were going to run out of gas, and that's ultimately what happened. That Alshon Jeffrey drop and resulted in an interception. That's a result of playing on the road for 5 out of the last 6 weeks and being in this playoff mindset, and the concentration gets away from you. It's hard to keep that concentration up for that long in that environment.
Until that last Eagles flurry of a drive to try to come back and make something happen, from the second, third, and fourth quarters, the Saints had like a 400 to like 60-yard edge. I mean, it was 400 for the Saints, 60 for the Eagles. I'm talking the first quarter, the Eagles smacked them down. But it was just domination for the next 3 quarters.
You know, it's rare that we can say this, but the Saints have a championship defense.
They do.
Okay? I mean, for a long time, you felt like, the Saints have to score 25, 28 points, 30 points to win a game. They don't have to do that anymore. They can. They're capable of it. It's a nice thing. But for a long time, we thought, the Saints are going to win games because of their offense. They've won at least a handful of games this year because of their defense. The first blowout of the Eagles was because of their defense.
A big handful. That stretch where they won 6 in a row, and a lot of those road games too, defense took over. Hey, by the way, Cam Jordan, we seem to take him for granted like we take Drew Brees. It used to be we were all trying to get Cam Jordan some pub.
Right.
But now he's become Drew Brees. I mean, he is. I asked this to Deuce right before the game. I put Cam Jordan's picture, I said, on because everybody loves the glamour positions.
Sure.
Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, we know how important they are. But I said, in importance to this team, where is he at number-wise? And he said 2 without a reservation. He goes, there's Drew Brees and there's him. You can't win without him.
Totally agree. He's the second most important piece, and I would say Mike Thomas is probably 2B.
2B, yeah.
But I mean, Cam Jordan, I think, is the best all-around defensive end in the National Football League. He can stop the run. Look at the energy he plays with. Look at how many snaps he plays. And then, of course, he can give you some pressure off the edge as well. And he's a funky pass rusher. He's unorthodox. He breaks all the rules that you're supposed to follow as a pass rusher, and he's unpredictable. Zach Strief told me that he's just so unpredictable what move you're going to get next. And he does things you're not supposed to do in certain situations. He gets away with them because he's ultra talented. He's got a high motor.
Speaking of unpredictable, Alvin Kamara, that's what he told me. Alvin Kamara, you can never get a clean pop on this guy because he's shake and bake, he's stronger than you expect.
Yeah, he's stronger than you think he is. He doesn't look like he's going to bring a punch or pack a punch. He's athletic. He's shifty. He told me during training camp, I said, how do you seem to bounce off of defenders? And he says he relaxes his diaphragm. He actually absorbs the hit. So it's a technique he kind of taught himself. He's a fascinating player. Look, I love the fact that they closed out this game when everybody in the stadium knew, Scott, that you had to run the football, and they did it anyway. That's a tough thing to do when everybody in the stadium knows you are going to run the football, and the Saints haven't been able to accomplish that prior to this year. They did it on Sunday against the Eagles. That's a sign that, hey, they got it going on. They can win a Super Bowl.
And wrapping up, how much fun is watching Taysom Hill and figuring out what is Sean Payton going to do with him next? He threw deep this game. I mean, the guy's doing everything.
Yeah, he's a football player, and I know that's a cliche term, but
they sent him out for a bomb. Mm-hmm. I mean, like he went down to the goal line for a 60-yard pass.
He has blocked a punt. He has run for a touchdown. He's gone out on routes. He's blocked in the running game.
4th down conversion, that saved the game pretty much this week.
4th down conversion. He's thrown a pass. I mean, several passes. I know this. He may not have a double-digit career in the NFL as a quarterback, a true quarterback, but he will play in the National Football League for 10 years.
No, he's valuable. I mean, everybody, now that the league, I keep thinking of Green Bay. They're like, why didn't we keep him on our regular roster? Because Sean Payton just stole him.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we have gifts for you. First,
sweet.
I got to promote the rugby. Here we are.
All right.
I want to put this up at WWL. Major League Rugby, the season starts January 26th. That is 11 days from now.
That's going to my man cave at the house. Thank you.
The man cave.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Get you a few glasses of wine over at Chez de la Chez.
All right.
And I think you know about this brand of shirt.
I do.
What's it called?
This is the tax material made out of bamboo. It's perfect for working out, like perfect. If you're sweating out in the yard, you won't feel. You know, sometimes you sweat and you can feel it like
you
get
feel
heavy.
grimy, right?
And
you never feel
and
it.
your shirt gets heavy. This doesn't get heavy. It's an amazing material. I love it. Thank you.
Does it feel good though?
It feels awesome. I can sleep in these kind of shirts.
Well, I do actually.
Do you?
It feels as good as listening to Kristian and Bobby on Sports Talk every day from 4 to 8. Check it out. How about that segue? All right. Thank you, Kristian, Garic. Check them out tomorrow when you're driving around on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the build-up, and, of course, the pre- and post-games and some halftime, too. If you happen to be watching on television, turn that volume down, as they say, and get on WWL Radio. Hey, coming up next, well, we got another friend of the show, and he's the print version. Last week we had TV, radio, print, and I said, you know what, let's do it again this week. It was so much fun. And now we're going to bring Rod Walker from The Advocate. Wait, I think I did a speech thing. Rod Walker from The Advocate, not Wad Walker. But anyway, coming up next on Primetime Sports.
The love of my life is a shady lady, turned me up just to bring me down. Used to be calm, but now she's crazy, I don't mind. She's not the love of my life anymore. Yup. Ha ha. I like this guitar.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And we know the writers are the ones that have all the real information. I'm just kidding, Fletcher and Kristian. Hey, but coming up, just like last week, TV, radio, and print. Here's our print guy, Rod Walker. He is with the New Orleans Advocate. He is the Saints beat writer, and he does so much more. This guy covers everything. I see him at Pelicans games. But right now, with the Saints in the NFC Championship game, he is knee-deep in New Orleans Saints football. Rod Walker, the pride of Mississippi. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
It's good to have you on. And I can't wait to give you one of those TAS shirts because you missed the cutoff from when we just started. So you're going to get one of those for the first time. But welcome back. How's things going for you in your career with The Advocate?
Everything's going well. You know, this is a really busy time and exciting time around the city. Everybody's really pumped up about what the Saints are doing. And, you know, here at The Advocate, we're really just kind of all in on making sure we get them covered and give them, you know, what they deserve for this season they're having.
Well, I'm going to say this. I didn't bring this up with the other two guys, but this is only the third time in the Saints' history they've gotten to the NFC Championship game. In 2011, many people think that was the best team ever, but they fell short. They had that game against San Francisco. The Niners, it was crazy, and they ended up losing that when the Niners ended up going to the Super Bowl. But it was 2006, Peyton's first year, when they beat the Eagles, and then they got to the NFC Championship game against the Chicago Bears. And, of course, 2009, when you get to the Super Bowl, you have to get to the championship game first. That was, of course, against the Minnesota Vikings. And now this year, the third time, well, once again, like 2009, not like 2006, we're on the road, they get the home game against the Los Angeles Rams. What are your thoughts going into this game?
I think, first of all, that home field advantage is really, really big in the conference championship games. You know, the Saints beat the Rams back in November, and that game pretty much determined where this game was going to be held. I mean, if the Saints had lost that game, we'd be packing up and headed to the West Coast.
Let's go ahead and say it 100% determined where this game was going to be held, right?
Right. So
because even if the Saints won that Carolina game, right, like that if it meant something, they played, they were 14-2. Well, if they had lost this one, they'd be 13-3, and that team would be 14-2. So that game meant everything, and the Saints waxed them back in when they played them in, I guess it was November.
Yeah, November the 4th. They beat them 45-35 that night. And, you know, home field advantage, when you talk about home field advantage, you look back at the last 5 years in the both NFC and AFC, the home team in the conference championship game has won every single time, which is, you know, pretty impressive, and that bodes well for the Saints this week.
Well, the Rams were undefeated. Remember when they came in, they looked like a juggernaut. They were even favored a little bit going into that game against the Saints. But the Saints ended up, that game, the score's 45-35, but it was a shellacking. I mean, in the beginning, the Rams did make a nice comeback, and they made a game of it. But the Saints, much like they did against the Eagles in the first game when they won 48-7, much like they did against teams like the Redskins on Monday night, they just came out and put it on the Rams, and I think it shell-shocked, you know, obviously Sean McVay and his group.
Yeah, and that game, you know, it was actually 14-14 at one point. The Rams went for this.
Then it went 35-14.
Yeah, but what happened, the Rams went for this fake field goal and came up short, and the Saints sort of took off from there and just kind of went on that run, and the game got out of hand. And but there are some differences in this game. This Rams team is a little bit different from the one that we saw back then with, you look at C.J. Anderson, the running back who wasn't even on the team then, and now he's playing with the Rams and averaging like 140 yards in the 3 games he's played. He's really changed that offense a little bit.
A nice compliment to already some say the best back in the league in Ty Gurley. Obviously, Ty Gurley is dynamic, but both teams are very different. And I'm going to say this, they both are huge offensive powerhouses, and they have that capability still, but they both rely on the ground much less than I think the common public out there would think. Because, they all season long, you're seeing these teams pass. Well, the Rams lost a weapon in Cooper Kupp. The Saints had some injuries to, again, is back now, but they both seem to rely on the run and their defense a lot more than they were doing early in the season.
Yeah, you look at what the Rams did against Dallas. I mean, they had almost 300 yards of rushing. They had 2 backs over 100 yards, which is pretty impressive in the playoffs.
Extremely impressive in the NFL.
And it was against a good Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yes.
So, I mean, that was really impressive on their part. And for the Saints, they haven't allowed a 100-yard back. It goes back 25 games now, which is an incredible streak when you think about it. The last time someone rushed for 100 yards against them, and this week they have to do so without Sheldon Rankins, who tore his Achilles on Sunday, and that's going to be a really big loss.
Yeah, tell me about that loss.
Well, Sheldon was having, it's his 3rd season, but he's having, his best year, just really kind of the stabilizer on the inside of that defensive line. But fortunately, they have some really good guys who can fill in, and I'd be interested to see how well those guys are able to step in for him. Those guys like Tyler Davison and David Onyemata, who, he's already been playing. All those guys have been playing all season long and in the rotation, so I think they'll all do fine. So
at one point that was a weakness on the Saints team. It has become a strength as of late, so thank goodness they have the bodies that have been there before. Hey, regardless who had won that Cowboys game, it was going to be a young quarterback coming into the Dome. Obviously, it was Dak Prescott losing to Jared Goff. Jared Goff seems to be a little wise beyond his years. He had that really rough rookie year when Jeff Fisher was his coach. He blossomed big time last year under Sean McVay. Now he's year 2 under Sean McVay. Do you think with the crowd, and it was massive, you were there, I mean, from the opening kickoff, it was crazy how loud that thing got. The crowd really got behind when the Saints were on defense, and they helped them with some penalties. The offense couldn't hear plays. But what do you think Jared Goff coming into a situation like this, only in his 3rd year? He's played in some big games, but listen, he's just got his first playoff win. They got beat by the Falcons last year. Remember that? Then he got the win at home against Dallas. But this is a different environment, man. He's going into a place where he is going to be thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, I know Sean McVay earlier in this week, he talked about that and just the fact that they've been here before, back in November. So he thinks that helps a little bit. But if you were there Sunday, I mean, that the Dome crowd was an entirely different animal on Sunday. I mean, it was just electric. I talked to Teron Armstead about that a little bit on yesterday, and I was just asking him, like, how hard is it for an offensive lineman when you're on the other side, to be, to have to endure that. He said it's really tough, and he can't even imagine what those opponents are going through, having to try to communicate with that kind of crowd noise. I mean, it was just electric.
Well, here's the stat that I just thought of that's going to play into the Saints' favor. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, of course, but out of the last 5 Super Bowls, the number 1 seed has gone 9 out of 10 times, meaning 5 from one conference, 4 from the other. That bodes well for the Chiefs and the Saints, although everybody could see the Rams and Patriots easily going as well. This is easily the best 4 you could have to go into the championship games.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, these are top 4 scoring offenses in the entire NFL, which, everybody's been talking about defense wins championships, but obviously offenses have a lot to do with that as well. I mean, you can put up points is always good. And all these teams have, solid defenses as well, especially those guys up front for both of these teams. So it's going to be a really good Sunday of football.
What's been the most pleasant surprise from the Saints team for you? You've covered them all year long, from training camp to now. Is there anything that sticks out that surprises you in a good way?
I don't know if surprise is the right word, but when you think about just the additions to this team, I think you have to talk about Demario Davis and just, them acquiring him at linebacker. And he's really just had a phenomenal season. Almost had he had a Pro Bowl type season and just, didn't get the nod, but he's just played really, really well. And I think that, the offensive line, they've been able to, they've had some injuries along the way, but they've always seemed to be able to kind of stick some guys in there. So I think all that's been the.
I mean, it's kind of amazing when you talk about the Saints coming off. Just 2 years ago, they had 3-7-9 season. We're trying to figure out what's Peyton going to do. And now, you come off the 11-5, now 13-3. I mean, things have changed quite a bit here in the Crescent City, even since you started doing the advocate job. What's been the biggest difference there?
I think they've done such a good job with the draft. I mean, you go back to last year and, just bringing in Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara and Ryan Ranchep. I mean, those guys.
Alex Anzalone.
Anzalone, yeah.
I mean, that's some ballers, man.
Yeah, I mean, that draft has sort of changed the franchise, I think. I mean, everything just sort of hit its stride once they did that. And I think that's been the biggest difference. And obviously Drew Brees, who, he'll be 40 when he's, Sunday when his first football game as a 40-year-old.
He's 40.
Yeah.
He's 40. Crazy. I know. He's 40.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is now in Tom Brady territory with the 40-year-old age. Amazing. By the way, when you talk about the draft that you mentioned, how about the draft before, the one that Jared Goff was in? There was a wide receiver draft in the second round out of Ohio State named Mike Thomas. And I remember making the comment, you were there after the first practice. I'm talking about not even training camp, mini camp. And I watched this guy, and I'm like, wow. I said, he has got tools, and we interviewed him in the locker room, and he was so grounded and sharp, and he talked about how his work ethic is nobody's going to outwork him. And he had this quiet confidence about him. And I remember telling people, I said, Joe Horn was great, man. Eric Martin was great. Danny O'Brien was great. Marcus Colson was great. But this guy, if he stays healthy and stays on the Saints for at least 6, 7, 8 years, I think he's going to be the greatest the Saints have ever had. And I'm telling you what, he has proven me right now.
Yeah, I mean, he'll own all the Saints records by the time he's done.
If they can afford to keep him.
If they can afford to keep him.
I mean, it's $20 million a pop now. I mean, he's got his range high.
Yeah, he's a guy that, I mean, Drew Brees obviously has a lot of confidence in him. Everybody knows he's the man on the team, and Drew still goes to him, and he still catches the ball. I mean, it's incredible how impressive he is. And one thing that Drew always talks about is how Mike is like that in practice too. I mean, he's a guy that, he goes through walkthroughs, and they have to say, hey, Mike, calm down. It's just a walkthrough, but he just all, just.
Dude, even in the pregame when he's in the huddle, and I mean, when they're all getting fired up, he says that helmet off, and he just goes into another. He's in another world.
Yeah, he's in the zone.
You know, that zone is like he's ready to go, and he says you can't guard Mike. That's his Twitter handle, isn't it?
Right.
Can't guard Mike. Well, he's pretty much unguardable. Going forward, we talked Saints and Rams. What do you see in that Chiefs and Patriots AFC, AFC Championship game, which is going to be right after the Saints game?
I think this will be a really good one. I don't even know which way. You sort of look at Brady and all the experience he has, and then you got Mahomes, who's had a heck of a year, and whichever way it turns out, I think you have a really. I mean, if the Saints win, you got either Breeze Brady or Breeze Mahomes. Both of those are great.
Or how about this? You got Goff Brady and Goff Mahomes. I mean, you got the two best young quarterbacks, or two of the best. I mean, there's others, and you have these two best veterans. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Rodgers is in there, but Drew Brees and Tom Brady are the elder statesmen of the league, and they deserve the respect they get. I mean, you cannot lose. As a Saints fan, I'm just going to say, I know you write, so you can't be a fan, but you grew up in Mississippi. You grew up probably liking the Saints. What would you rather see for marquee purposes? Going against the Mahomes, who's going to be the MVP probably, or going against Tom Brady, who's won 5 Super Bowls?
I think just at this point in their career, with both of those guys being 40, I think Breeze Brady is a matchup you want to see
That's what
right
I want,
now.
right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they haven't played in the Super Bowl, obviously, and it would just be like a really big matchup, and definitely will be the storyline.
And I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but to have Breeze and Brady, I mean, if Breeze would beat Brady, and I know this is a big hypothetical, but if he got there and beat him, his legacy just jumps a ton, because now your 2 Super Bowl wins, you're 2-0 if you do it, and you've beaten Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So if I'm Drew Brees, that's what I'm hoping for. But I know right now he's hoping for one thing: just get by the Rams so we can have this problem and talk about it later, correct?
Right. Yeah, I think so. But, yeah, definitely beating Brady would just pretty much seal his legacy. And I mean, there are some people that still may not have him in that conversation, but I mean, I think he would
definitely be in the greatest. Yeah. He's in the top 8 in anybody's conversation.
Right.
If he's not, you're crazy. He should be in everybody's top 5. By the way, I got to tell people, this guy saved me, jammed me out of a jam. I work with Zach Streif every weekend. Zach had a funeral he had to go to last second, and man, at 10 o'clock last night, my man Rob Walker came through, man. That's what true friends do, and I appreciate you taking care of me. Because of that, I upped you on the gift certificate, man. I got to take care of you for that. And you will get your first task performance. This is unbelievable shirt. Feel that. Have you ever had anything like that? I don't think so. And I have to give you one of these because I want you all to start writing over here at the Advocate right here. Major League Rugby. Right here, the season starts. This is not the minor leagues. This is the major leagues. These are the best players in the world. The season starts on January 26th over there at Shaw Field. Baby Cake Stadium is right around the corner for this team. But right now, they built a stadium over there on the West Bank. It's going to be gorgeous, and they're going to make it look really good. So check it out. Hey, man, so many great people to thank today. Of course, Will Hill and Naila Jones and the Redhead Tsunami, Jim Dotson, Ron Yeager at WLAE, Jeff Brenner, Ashley Coleman over at CST, all the good folks. And also want to give a shout out to Colton and Tom for coming out and watching the show today. We'll see you next week, hopefully talking about the Super Bowl right here on Primetime Sports.